Hello there. It is the 19th of March, 2024. Welcome to A Star Wars Story, your Star Wars story. I'm Greg, and I want to take a quick moment to thank all of my patrons for their continued support across our network of channels. Thank you all so much, legitimately. And this is A Star Wars Story inaugural live stream. What better time to go live than the Acolyte, the leaked video that put this channel on the map. Before it was taken down, we had nearly 1 million views on our Celebration Acolyte trailer, and here we are talking about the Acolyte. Now, despite the video being removed, I am still able to view comments, and I am still able to kind of see what was going on, which I've always been excited about this, because the pervasiveness of misinformation around Star Wars, the weird misinformation around a fictional franchise, is bizarre. But the strangest one was the continued dissemination of the Acolyte is canceled. Disney hates it. Disney doesn't want the Acolyte around. It's getting canceled. It's getting buried. The show's not getting made. Kathleen Kennedy stole money to make the Acolyte. Really outrageous nonsense. Just absurd nonsense. And I replied and blocked every single user who continuously repeated that nonsense and refused to face reality. Hey, Mike, welcome to A Star Wars Story. Welcome to our Star Wars channel. So that's the first thing that it's always important. At least I feel like it's important if we're going to be a part of the fandoms and we're going to interact and we're going to share our love of these franchises, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel, any of these things, we need to acknowledge the dark side of the internet. It's not the dark side of fandom. None of this is real. The average fan, I can't imagine, buys into this just absurd nonsense. Mike says, glad to have you back, bro. How was your vacation? Yes, for those of you who don't know, we had a spring break vacation. It was wonderful. It's always great to get out. It's always great to travel. It's always great to see the world. I love it dearly. We hit South by Southwest in Austin. That was an amazing event. I got to see some really cool stuff. I got to see stuff that I'm not quite ready to talk about yet, just because of wanting to make the most of it. But I saw some really cool stuff that I'm really excited for. I had some colleagues met up there who were visiting Austin, and they pulled out their phones and they were like, "Hey, this is what I was working. I want show you this." And I'm really over the moon. Had a great vacation, and very much so enjoyed the time with my family. So, love the Acolyte trailer. If you're on our Patreon, if you've been on our Patreon, you've already seen it. You saw this trailer over a year ago, pretty much. I mean, give or take. My time could be a little off, but it's been up on our Patreon for ages. It is effectively the same trailer that we've had leaked for a while. A great, little differences here and there, but effectively pretty much the same thing. They're not really revealing a whole lot, and I respect that. One of the things that did catch me, though, watching the trailer is now this show takes place 100 some odd years before the Phantom Menace, but aliens. But I swear there is a Keldor that looks exactly like Plo Koon. Now that might be speciest. It may very well be speciest, but the back of his head looks like the back of Plo Koon's head. So that was exciting for me. That's the biggest takeaway for me from this trailer. More Keldors and potentially more Plo Koon, and I'm over the moon about that. But no, it's weird. You put a woman in charge of this. The leads. Whether it's Daisy Ridley, no matter what. But anytime a woman gets involved with Star Wars, it is the amount of rage bait is innumerable. And in terms of facing reality, and I challenge this for anyone, because legitimately, if you're in the fandom and your idea is like, I'm going to hate this, I heard about this woman, we have videos completely breaking down every piece of misinformation and fabrication. If you choose to ignore reality, then you are truly lost, right? But if you're willing to look at the facts And if you're willing to see what's really going on, see how you're being grifted, and look at these grifters who are deliberately fabricating information to get you into a rage state, an enraged state, so that you're continuously watching, so that you're in a cycle of misinformation and violence. Oh, this guy's the only one who gets me. He's the only one who understands. It's a sickness, right? It is a sickness, and it's all fabricated. If this other piece of information that's been proven false doesn't elucidate what is going on, then there is no help, and that's where you'll just get blocked, just as a fair warning. But as has been, Acolyte wasn't canceled. Kathleen Kennedy didn't steal money. That was a weird one. All of this is completely made up. Kathleen Kennedy hasn't been fired. Kathleen Kennedy's retirement is coming, potentially. Her contract with Lucasfilm expires at the end of 2024. She might retire. She might keep going. But I'm going to be very clear here, because this is important for any kind of Star Wars channel. If you are some kind of gamer, gator, Star Wars gator, whatever the heck you want to call it, if you're some kind of weird, creepy purist, if you've attacked these women, you did not fix Star Wars. You did not get a victory. Don't delude yourself. And even these grifters, don't delude yourself. You had nothing to do with it. You had nothing to do with it. Kathleen Kennedy retires. It's legitimately a retirement. Her contract is up. You have no power. You have literally no power, as evidenced by the fact that, oh, look at that. The Acolyte is still coming out and is currently in focus testing, the highest rated Disney Plus series in focus testing. Not just Star Wars, not just Marvel, overall. Every Disney Plus original, the Acolyte rated higher than. That's a pretty big deal just in terms of quality. Visually, it looks beautiful. I love the costuming. I'm excited about the cast. I am ultimately very excited about it. Been excited about it since I first leaked the Acolyte, and then the trailer at Celebration. I've been very gung-ho about it. Okay, Mike says, sorry to ask right at the beginning of the stream, but were you able to read my rough ideas of my take on the black suit? I don't remember. I don't think so. I don't think I've checked. I don't think I either missed it, or I just, because of the spring break, I just completely lost track of it. Mike says that they've been enjoying playing Midnight Suns. It's really not my type of game, but it is fun. That's fair. And again, just in terms of the type of genre that certain games are, even Star Wars has Empire at War, strategy games. There's all kinds of different takes on these franchises, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or Transformers. But if people are willing to give those kind of top-down games or strategy games a try, you're in for an absolute treat. Whether it is Star Wars or whether it's Marvel's Midnight Suns, really good game, and really great character development in that game, and a great cast. So then I saw this comment about the Acolyte destroying the canon of the Phantom Menace, and it won't. I'm not going to get into leaks here. This isn't a leak stream. We've had leaked information in the past. We've shared it in the past. So, again, you can check out that information. But what I will say is the Acolyte is 8 episodes long. It does not destroy the canon of what Ki-Adi-Mundi says. The Sith have been extinct for a millennia. It does not destroy that remark. To say anything else it would go into heavy leak/spoiler territory in a live stream that I didn't want to do that here. Because, again, it's not labeled, and this was just kind of meant to be very casual, so I don't want people dropping in and going, oh, my God, you just ruined the plot twist in Episode 7 of The Acolyte. I'm not going to do any of that. So I want to be clear. I'm not going to talk about the leaks or spoilers, but to get around answering some of these comments that I've been waiting to answer forever in our Acolyte leak trailer video, it does not destroy canon. Like, if you were willing to accept the expanded universe back in the day and the stories that the expanded universe told prior to the Phantom Menace and in that 1,000-year gap, there's no reason you shouldn't accept the Acolyte. It works just fine. I will say, whether it's the legacy of Palpatine, the Sith, the Jedi believe the Sith were extinct because they had no living proof, right? There was no evidence of it. Now, the Sith were still operating in those 1,000 years. That was the rule of 2. So, just to be very clear, it all works within canon, and Ki-Adi-Mundi's line in The Phantom Menace holds true right up to the end of the series, which again, as I said, is 8 episodes long. Oh yeah, Mike, I will, absolutely. I'll check it out in Fancreation as soon as I have the time. So again, just doing a quick Wikipedia search. Plo Koon should be alive. Plo Koon died. I still think Plo Koon is alive. Plo Koon died in the events of Revenge of the Sith, which put him at the age of 385. Acolyte is set 100 years before the Phantom Menace. So, yes, Plo Koon is alive during the events of the Acolyte, just like Yoda is alive, just like Jabba the Hutt's alive. He is alive, and he should be a Jedi Master by that point. But is that him, or do all Keldor look alike? So, anyway, yeah. And just, my God. The visuals, I'm not sharing the trailer because of, I'm not doing a full watch of the trailer here on this channel simply because Lucasfilm is really trigger happy in terms of blocking the second their music or anything plays, and it's really hard to get that stuff lifted, especially for smaller channels. So I'm just not wrestling with that right now. But holy cow, it's beautiful. I mean, there are costumes, there are sets. It feels authentic. It feels really lived in. And just seeing the Jedi, seeing the era, I'm all over this. I mean, I'm all over this. I can't stress enough how beautiful the Acolyte looks. I cannot wait to see the story that is told here. I really can't wait to see it because leaks don't do it justice. Reading a quick synopsis and some bullet points does not do this show justice for just how beautiful it is. And then in some other Star Wars related news, George Lucas has backed Disney and Bob Iger amid their proxy fight with a leading quote that every headline is picking up, where George Lucas is quoted as saying, creating magic is not for amateurs. So yes, George Lucas is siding with Disney. And to all of you lunatics who are now attacking George Lucas, you're out of your minds if you honestly think Ike Perlmutter and that other douchebag are good for Disney and Marvel and Star Wars, Lucasfilm, whatever, the company that makes Star Wars. You're out of your mind. You are out of your damn mind if you think there is any legitimacy to their desires to be on the board. They will do nothing good with it. It is yet again another wild case of this weird grifting that's attaching to people, because again, we saw it in American politics when the grift attached to Donald Trump and continues to attach itself to Donald Trump, feeding on rage, feeding on deliberate lies, deliberately misinforming your audience, deliberately lying to your audience, creating an atmosphere of hate and pure drivel for clicks and for the desire of maintaining an echo chamber where you have a significant amount, because it is primarily lonely men who you are driving your audience as, and you are encouraging their violent, aggressive behavior toward women. So just to be really clear here, you're in the wrong here. It is crucial that Ike Perlmutter does not get control of Disney. It's insane to me that we're now at a period after getting Ike out of Disney and Marvel that the grift has decided, no, this is who we're going to side with to maintain our audience. It is absurd to me, and it's just like picking, again, it's just like American politics. It's absolutely insane to me. Which again, it's the prequels, it's the sequels. There's always someone going after this, and it's just absolutely, it's boring now. In really good news, though, Ubisoft's Star Wars title is appearing to be on track to come out in May. I say appearing. There was a leak database entry. We'll see what goes on with that, but it appears that it is on track for a May release. But as of this live stream, there's been nothing definitively said on that one way or the other. Let's see. Let's look at some comments. Let's see what people are generally in our comment section. You know, it's funny because just going through this, there are so many comments where it's like, wait, Acolyte was canceled. I thought Acolyte was canceled. I was told Acolyte was canceled. I'm not going to say they said channel names. I'm not going to list those channel names. They don't deserve any kind of audience. But, like, that's crazy to me. That's really wild to me. No, just to be really clear, Kathleen Kennedy did not in any way steal money to produce the Acolyte. Rogue Squadron is in development, but very, very bottom tier development, not production development, not pre-production development. It's in development at the script stage. We'll see what happens. Mike says, you know something I've realized, how you think that Spider-Man's Peter Parker should be a perpetual teenager, 15 to at the oldest 19. That's how I am with Ben Tennyson, I've realized. Yeah, there's an era where it works, right? And again, you know, I want to make it clear. Adult characters and aging characters up to adulthood, I'm cool with. You know, you can make Batman Bruce Wayne a young adult. You can make him an adult. I don't. All of that's kind of just insignificant to certain characters. But with Peter, Marvel editorial has a hardline rule that Peter can't get married. He always needs to have his Aunt May. He always needs to be broke. No matter what happens, he always has to be in this perpetual kind of loser state. He can't get the girl. He can't get married. He can't have kids. If you're not going to allow that kind of development and you're going to make him just awful in his own comics, then just stick him in a perpetual high school teenage state like The Simpsons does with their kids or whatever. Just stick him in that state. You know, make him about 16 years old and just run with it. That's it. You get to have your cake and eat it too, basically. You don't have to worry about marriage or anything like that. Aunt May is there. He'll have his money troubles because he's a teenager trying to get by. You get to have all the classic tropes with none of the nonsense and none of the things that just make Peter look like an absolute tool in his own comic. Ultimate Spider-Man is an amazing comic because it's allowed to really develop Peter. I mean that on the comic where in the original Ultimate Spider-Man run in the original Ultimate Universe where Peter was a perpetual teenager for over 100 issues. And then now the Ultimate Spider-Man reboot where, again, the Ultimate Spider-Man perspective, here we are with a Peter that is a father, married, has kids. It's a great perspective. We get to see that it works. Both of them work. And I am very much on the side with Steve Ditko on this. You know, Steve Ditko was adamant that Peter needed to perpetually exist in high school to maintain believability and credibility for the character and for the stories of how they wanted to explore Peter Parker. Again, hung up on cash, always having these difficulties. But Stan and, I do have to say that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko were both in agreement that Peter Parker did eventually get the girl, and that because of his behavior, he was a good guy. Girls and women did love him, and they did want him to have a healthy relationship. Steve didn't really care who he had a relationship with. Stan wanted him to ultimately end up with Gwen Stacy. Stan was very adamant that Peter end up with Gwen Stacy and was very upset when they killed Gwen Stacy. But basically, long tangent notwithstanding, it's just a worthless kind of it's a worthless kind of arc because everybody knows that in the Amazing Spider-Man universe, the main comic universe, Peter's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to go anywhere. So just put him in high school, have fun. That's it. You can tell basically the same stories. Star Wars is a lot of the same way. There's eras in Star Wars that you can exist in perpetuity and just tell stories. George Lucas, I love, it was one of my favorite things to hear George Lucas say, and this was years, God, time is fascinating. This was over a decade ago. It was at about Celebration 2007. Running into, because again, I loved any time I ran into these people, and if you go to a celebration, you explore and you hang out, you will meet the actors, you will run into them, cast, crew, and one of the things I loved about what George Lucas said, because he was talking to fans, and I couldn't help it. I saw him and I was like, I have to talk to George Lucas, And one of the things that always really stood out to me is, when he would talk about the Clone Wars and Star Wars Underworld, as far as George was concerned, the Clone Wars, he was fine with just going on forever. Like, literally, as I took it, if the Clone Wars was 3 to 5 years, because George was always kind of iffy on that. I know what the official canon says. I know canon, and even back then in Legends, the Clone Wars lasted 3 years. But sometimes George Lucas, I literally heard him say, verbatim, we have 5 years worth of story. That the Clone Wars goes on. Like, he literally he was fickle on whether or not, he was loose with it. In his mind, the Clone Wars lasted, it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years, he didn't care. And I don't mean the show, I mean the event, the actual in-universe time. It could be, the Clone Wars could have gone 3 years, so it could be a 3-year gap between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, or it could have been a 5-year gap. And George Lucas, even after the Clone Wars timeline and everything was published, he still would sometimes say 5 years. That's just true. But as far as George Lucas was concerned, one thing he said was, that I loved, is the Clone Wars could go on forever, because if we have to, we could say that every episode is basically a day. So if 1 year is 365 days, 365 episodes, you get what I mean? Like, that's what he was saying. Just so it could just go on. And it was like, oh no, this happens in a day. And then what I loved at the end of that is, I love this comment, because someone asked him, okay, but what if you reach the amount of years and you still want to make Clone Wars? And then he says, well, maybe every two episodes are set on the same day. And I love it, because George did not give a shit about how long something should realistically take. He did not care. He said, as far as he was concerned, if the Clone Wars was successful, he just wanted to roll with it. And he wanted to roll with the Clone Wars for as long as possible. When George was in charge and when everything was working out, and when the Clone Wars was still going before Disney shifted and wanted to shift focus, George routinely said, every single time at a convention, every single time I stopped him, every time I annoyed him, every time he said that this was a show that at least could go on for 10 years. It didn't matter how long the event took place in universe. It didn't matter how long the Clone Wars were in universe. It could go on. The show could go for 10 seasons plus and have an episode to tell, because George just wanted to make it. And I love that kind of thing. And honestly, even when I make stuff, when I create stuff, when I write stories, when I write my books, no matter what I do, that is how I exist in terms of that kind of perpetual storytelling narrative. It's like, listen, you play in this sandbox as much as you want. It doesn't matter. One, it's still all fiction at the end of the day, and as long as you're saying this event happens after this one, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how many days, doesn't matter how many years, it does not matter. That's why George Lucas always avoided saying, really clearly noting, here's this year or that year. He wanted to avoid all of that, because he just wanted to tell a story, and he wanted to just constantly sprinkle in and drop stuff in, and if that meant the Clone Wars going on for 10, 15, 20 seasons, then it didn't matter, and it all would work, because he made it, and it therefore worked. Fitted in the timeline, he doesn't care. And I love that perspective, because to him, it doesn't matter. The Clone Wars counted, and it wouldn't have mattered if the Clone Wars went on for 10 seasons. It all still would have counted. And for the people who obsessed over the timeline, you would just have to accept that it fit. And I love that. Let's see. Mike says, that's my thing with Ben 10, because he started when he was 10, and I think that him as a perpetual teen, as the status quo, was the more interesting than him to be in his 20s or 30s or whatever. Well, yeah, even for Ben Tennyson, there is a character development where at some point he ends up losing relatability in an interesting way. It doesn't matter if your audience grew up with him and if they're in their 20s, but if you find a way to perpetually keep a character down and to beat them down to the point where they're not even the star of their own show or comic, and that it feels like they are constantly being upended just to maintain status quo, you're going to lose it. If you maintain a character, again, as like Peter Parker or Ben 10 as a teenager, you're fine. You're fine, because you get to maintain the status quo you want. But then, look at Bruce Wayne, for instance. And DC, for instance, or Dan DiDio, rather. had really strong reservation. Dan DiDio had very strong beliefs about what Batman should and shouldn't be, and I disagree with him immensely. I've been disagreeing with Dan DiDio since he was in charge, since he was not in charge, that's the wrong phrase, but since Dan DiDio was working with Mainframe and he was actually involved in Beast Machines in a weird roundabout way. So I've been disagreeing with Dan DiDio since he was involved with Transformers. I do not care for Dan DiDio. I don't care for his creative decisions. I don't care for his executive decisions. And one of the things is, his weird thing about Batman and of course the iconic quote of superheroes don't do that in reference to Batman going down on Catwoman, or even Dan DiDio's obsession with killing Dick Grayson and killing Wally West. I don't understand it. I really don't. Dan DiDio was one of the worst things that happened at Mainframe, and Dan DiDio was one of the worst things that happened at DC. So Dan DiDio got his hands on Transformers and he got his hands on DC, and I don't think any of his executive decisions did good for either company. Batman, as an adult, I understand the loner mentality. I understand of he doesn't want anybody getting hurt. But also, I think, if you're going to do that, then you need to keep the Bat family small. If he's endorsing 24 kids, he's not really a loner. So what are you afraid of him developing for? Have him end up with someone. My personal canon is that Batman ends up with Catwoman. Again, that just works. You meet people at work, and it's very often you meet your partners at work. I met my wife at work. So it happens. Batman's working. He meets a coworker. Catwoman's his coworker. They get married. And I think that's good. But this weird thing of that kind of stagnation, I don't see what it serves. It's like Clark Kent and Lois. Having them be married and develop is great. And then Brian Michael Bendis came along and just utterly ruined that with the John Kent story. Why he rapidly aged up John Kent and had John Kent go through weird abuse just all kinds of weird stories, not sexual abuse, but just I don't understand it. I don't understand those decisions. Mike says, in rewatching Omniverse and your perspective on Peter was what made me realize that. Oh no, that's fair. Mike says, poor Dick and Wally. And then Mike says, speaking of DC, I'm just curious what roster of Teen Titans will be in the DCU film. So, okay, so this to extrapolate from that, we have to acknowledge what we've heard elsewhere for what DC is prepping. And again, take it or leave it. So in the upcoming Batman film, which is currently titled The Brave and the Bold, that might end up being changed, but Batman is going to train the latest Robin, who is Damian Wayne, his son. And one of the earliest leaks from that project is that the Bat family was going to be established, but it was going to be a small Bat family. It was going to be Dick Grayson as Nightwing, and it was going to be Barbara Gordon as Batgirl. And then, of course, it was going to be introduced, Dick Grayson would have been Robin, and would have grown, would now be like an older teenager, 18, 19, something like that. And Dick Grayson would be Nightwing, and then the introduction of Damian. I don't know what that means for Tim and Jason. I simply don't know. So there's two ways you could do Teen Titans at this point, or Titans. You could do it one of two ways. You could have it set in the past, and it follow a young Dick Grayson as he assembles the original Titans. So then you would have, oh gosh, I apologize for not, off the top of my head, I don't remember the entire original Teen Titans comic book lineup, but let's just say Dick Grayson, Robin, Wally West, Kid Flash, Beast Boy, Raven, and was Cyborg a part of the very original Titans? I don't remember. Or was it Aqualad? Or was it Aqualad and then Cyborg came? Again, little iffy. Apologize. So anyway, as it is, they can either do a story set in the past, or they can do a newer Titans where it involves Nightwing, Robin, Wally West, Flash. You still have Starfire. Like, it can still be everybody, and it can be the Titans because, again, as long as they're like teen, and I don't know if they're going to keep the teen in the title. I don't know if it's just going to be DC Studios Titans. I know right now early development and early pitches are Teen Titans, but I don't know if it's going to end up keeping the teen in the title. But that's two ways you can go about it. You can either have it be a period piece, relative. I don't mean like a 1940s period piece, but you can either have it be something set before Brave and the Bold, or you can have it modern day where it includes the original Titans. They've grown up and they're training a new era of Titans, and you have that kind of ensemble, tight family knit cast. So two really good avenues to go about it, and just in terms of, it really comes down to the cast that the creators want, rather, I suppose. But you could also at the same time follow Brave and the Bold, Damian Wayne Robin, and again, Nightwing recruits Robin to the Titans. Like I said, there's so many ways to go about it. And I highly recommend, looking to Young Justice for creative inspiration. Young Justice was an amazing animated series, is an amazing animated series that I hope returns one day. Let's see, Mike says, Kara can't be in it, right? Because if they're adapting Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, she was 21 in that book. I mean, I assume she can't be in it, but actors are actors. If they want to say she's 19 or 18 to still fit the teen moniker, they'll do whatever. I don't really care. I mean, I've watched shows where 26-year-olds or even 26 to 30-year-olds are playing 16 to 18-year-olds. It's Hollywood. I don't really care in terms of suspension of disbelief. They can go with it. Mike says, I really hope Tim and Jason don't get the shaft again. Seriously. Let's see. Mike says, Donna, Garth, Dick, Wally, and Roy are the original Titans. Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Mike says, technically, Donna came like an issue or two after the Titans formed, but I count her as a founding member. Yeah, again, that's what happened with the Avengers, too. Captain America wasn't revived until issue 4, but he's founding, and all stories kind of reimagined it as he was there at the beginning. But yeah, so, okay, so I thought it wasn't. I thought Aqualad was there. Again, it's been a long time. But that's a good rollout, too. I mean, you touch on every franchise. You go back in time. I just don't know. Not knowing where DC Studios' head is at in terms of, are they willing to go back in time and tell stories like that, is where it's just kind of up in the air. All we really know is that a Teen Titans project is in development, and we know that if it is set in present day, then it no doubt will involve Dick Grayson, but he'll be Nightwing, and it will involve Robin, but it's going to be Damian. Just because that's the timeline for present day DC, and it's a Dick Grayson, Damian should be an early teen, and Dick should be between 18 and 19 if a lot of those original leaks still hold up to this day. Which, again, I think it's a good system. I think it's a good system whichever way they choose to approach it. Whether they say, Brave and the Bold ends and Dick is like, hey, Damian, I want to show you my team, the Titans. There's really great ways to go about doing it. Let's see. Mike says Young Justice is basically perfect. Yeah. Mike says, I think DC's Bumblebee was the next member to be added. Oh, that's fair. Like I said, I've lost track of some of that. It's been a long time since I've read the original Teen Titans. And it did also, I wouldn't be surprised if they do an adaptation where they're kind of mixing a little bit of new Teen Titans, especially because of the popularity of the animated series. So then, again, it just depends on, are they allowed to set it in the past? Will it be modern day? And because if it is modern day, then Dick and Wally, they're all going to be about the same age. So they're not going to, Wally's not going to be 13 while Dick is 18. Excuse me. Wally's going to be the same generation as Dick. Mike says, I just want to see my boy Impulse done justice before they think of using Wallace. I want Wally West to get his time in the spotlight, so I'm in a very different position. I want to see the Flash family. I think if you want to do a Flash film or a Flash project, then you need to dive into the family aspect where you have Barry Allen, you have Jay Garrick. Barry Allen's married with wife and kids. You have Wally West, who is just coming into the legacy of the Flash. There's a lot of great ways you can go about it, because you need to tell that story before you introduce Bart, because Bart, if you choose to have Bart from the future and him coming back to the present and getting stuck in the present, then you need to establish the Flash family before you introduce Bart. So I would do a Flash family project end the film with a tease for Bart where where Bart comes from the future. So have a big teaser where he lands in the present day, and then have a Flash family sequel that introduces Bart. That's what I would do. But yeah, in the first Flash film, I would have legacy Flashes, and I would really set it apart from the awful DCEU Flash and how those films went. Mike says, and honestly, I really hope they make Wally the DCU's main Flash, especially if Dick is Nightwing already. Yeah, with Dick being Nightwing already, I am hopeful that, basically with the DC universe being established, early its establishment, but established makes me really excited, especially knowing, Superman's not the first superhero. When the Superman film comes out, Superman's not the first superhero. The world's well aware of superheroes at that point. And Batman already exists too. And the Bat family already exists as of the events of the first Superman film that's coming out. So we're really hitting the ground running, and I'm super, super excited for that, because let's just get into good stories. We don't need origins all the time. Let's get into good stories, good villains. Don't waste your characters. Don't kill them off needlessly. Hi, Marvel. Don't kill your villains off needlessly. Hi, Marvel. Let's story be king. And our Superman leaks have me excited, so I'm excited. That's really it. Mike says, yeah, I agree, Greg. I'm just kind of sick of the shafting of Bart for Wally in so long. No, I mean, we all want to see our favorite characters adapted. I'm happy to see characters adapted into cartoon. Live action isn't the end-all, be-all for me. I love cartoons. But I do think the best way to do Bart is you have to have a Flash family project. It can either be a Max project or a film, but you do a Flash family project, and at the end of the season / movie, Bart, there's a post-credit scene or whatever you want to do, post-credit scene or just the end of the film, Bart arrives from the future, and that's how it ends, setting up the sequel. To me, that's the best way, because you can't just throw Bart in there, because Bart has a lot of baggage, and you don't want to lose his story, because Bart does have an interesting story. But to make it work, you have to firmly establish the Flash legacy and then set up Bart so that Bart can shine in the sequel. That's the best way to do it. I mean, that's not even a bias. That's not even to give Wally the spotlight. That is legitimately the best way to do it. You cannot introduce Bart and all these concepts in the same film. It won't work. It will be an absolute mess. There will be no semblance of creativity in that. It will be a mess. Mike says, not Wally, Wallace, the DC's attempt of remaking Wally West in the New 52. Oh, I thought you were just being really proper. I forget about that character. Okay, I got you. I'm just going to move on from that, because Wallace just needs to be buried. I do believe, though, because Mike, to go back, because you said I don't even know if Bart counts as being the second Kid Flash anymore. He does since the reboot of the New 52. Bart does count as being the second Kid Flash. He absolutely does, because the reboot of the New 52 brought back a lot of the post-crisis DC continuity, including the legacy of Wally to Bart. So there you go.
Hi, Daddy.
Hey, buddy. I'm almost done. Sorry, checking my text real quick. Okay. Excuse me. George Lucas is Disney's largest individual shareholder, for those who don't know. So I'm, again, just going through news beats. Let's see. Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection is an absolute mess at launch. Asper, the developer, has stolen content from modders. I don't think they stole any of my content, which was really bad back in the day, so it's fine. But would have loved if Asper had put in some of my really crappy Star Wars Battlefront mods. It would have been fun. They didn't though, so that's fine. But Asper has indeed been stealing from modders, and Battlefront apparently has is in a better shape. The patch is 15 gigabytes big, so we'll see what happens. I am bummed because if you mess up, you don't get those players back. It's very unlikely this game recovers. I hope it does, but it's unlikely, and I don't want to get my hopes up. Instead, I'm just going to be playing Pokemon and Helldivers. Optimus123, hello. Mike says DC tried to make his character development time as Kid Flash mute because of Wallace. Yeah, that was dumb, but none of that counts anymore, so you don't got to even worry about that. Okay, excuse me. We have a few minutes left before I have to jump off. I have a... see, I balanced it. I tried to get the stream early today because I knew we were doing a Star Wars... I knew that the headline was going to be Star Wars on our Star Wars channel. But we're in the last few minutes because I have to wrap up pretty on time today. I have a consultation call that I have to take in about 10 minutes, so I need to wrap up before those 10 minutes because I'm going to have to be on the phone. And it's for a project that none of you can hear about. So there you go. Okay. Mike says, I personally think he should do a Dick Grayson and evolve past Impulse and Kid Flash and move into being Kid Mercury or something akin to it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like... I mean, I'm in a similar boat. I absolutely agree. You know, one of the problems when you have a name that has boy in it or kid in it is if you want these characters to develop and evolve, they have to move beyond that. And there's not a whole lot of Flash identities that are really catchy, especially when it comes to business and IP and franchising, which is all these companies care about. Let's be realistic here. But Bart... I mean, honestly, Bart has a great name just in Impulse. Impulse is a good superhero name that I think he should stick to for his own unique identity. The question is what do you do with Wally West and Barry Allen? Do you kill Barry Allen, which I don't agree with, or do you keep Barry Allen around like current DC and you have two Flashes, just like you have multiple Green Lanterns, and is that okay? I think that's okay, and I would be happy with that, so that Barry Allen is happily married with kids, and then Wally is, young Wally, and he's going to meet his partner, and they're going to end up, he's going to meet Linda, and they'll end up getting married and stuff. But I want to see that kind of stuff develop anyway. Mike says, because Max and Bart's relationship means so much to him, more Max than Barry. Optimus says, Disney should make a Delta Squad show because the Republic Commando game is no longer canon. Yeah, I mean... Again, I don't care what is and isn't canon. Republic Commando is canon in my mind. Those characters are canon. I would love to see a Republic Commando show. I would also love to see the Republic Commandos headline a video game. And I think we're definitely going to get some of that sooner than later. Mike says, yeah, I agree. Impulse is an awesome name and identity, but yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, like, the big thing for me is I want the Flash family of characters to have happy endings, so to speak. Killing off Barry Allen's a waste. He's already been brought back in the comics. There's nothing interesting to it. So, I think you do the legacy. Like I said, Flash and Iris are already together. Maybe they're expecting their first child. Maybe they're just a couple. It doesn't matter. But Wally needs to be the up-and-comer. And like I said, you do that first film where you have Jay Garrick, Barry, and now, and Wally as the up-and-comer, and you end that film with the arrival of Impulse. I mean, you've got a great franchise. You got a great franchise right there. And again, DC, I'm open to consulting. Mike says Barry could live in the future with his kids and Iris like they did in Pre-Crisis and vacate the present time. They could, but I don't like that. This is me being nitpicky. I don't like them vacate. I don't like any kind of them. I don't like any atmosphere where Barry moves to the future. I don't care for that at all. I'm really, really particular on that. That's me. But I don't want them to do that. I don't care for that storyline whatsoever. Okay. Last couple of minutes. Anything pressing? Sorry, I'm checking my phone. anything pressing or kind of relevant. We covered Star Wars. We called out the incels. We called out the grifters. Again, thank you to anybody who joins us on our inaugural Star Wars channel live stream. Please consider liking the video. Subscribe to this channel if you're interested in talking Star Wars and joining us on a future Star Wars live streams. And please consider sharing this with friends and anybody who is completely dissatisfied with Star Wars creators on YouTube. There is a happy place, and there is a place that is not a part of the grift. And again, one thing that's always important to me so that people know who I am and where I come from, trans rights are human rights. Women absolutely deserve equity and equal rights. It's crazy to me that there's even an argument of attacking and going after women, but I always want to make it very clear exactly what this channel is and exactly that you're welcome. You are welcome here. You are loved. If you are a part of the grift, if you are a part of any kind of hate or any kind of deliberate misinformation, you'll just be instantly blocked, because this is a place to celebrate Star Wars and to get excited, and I am really excited. Bad Batch has been amazing, and I can't wait to talk about the Acolyte as it airs weekly, and we're going to do that on this channel. I will not forget, Mike. I hopefully will not forget. I'm going from this to like I said, I'm going from this to a consultation call, but hopefully I will not forget. And then I'm going into dinner. We're going into cooking anyway. So again, thank you all so much for joining and checking out this channel. I truly, truly do appreciate it. Above all else and most importantly, stay safe, take care of others, and remember that the Force will be with you